Are we ready? Let's talk about this on camera. We're rolling. Can I clap?
Cheers, my man.
Cheers, dude. Let's do this instead of the clap. This is our in. Ready? Is that loud enough?
Cheers, you guys. Thanks for
You
watching.
don't even use the clap. You
The
don't
clap.
even use the clap. That's our in.
This is gold.
Hey, welcome to the Fireside Tattoo Network. I'm Jake Meeks. This is Evan Qualls. I can't call you a guest anymore because you're like
What's
my
up, y'all?
co-host.
I'm stoked about that.
Yeah.
It's like third time.
Third time.
It feels better than ever.
There are very few third-timers. How many
Yeah.
third-timers do we have? Not many.
I'm privileged. Thank you guys
Yeah.
for watching. Pay attention to this guy and the two dudes behind the camera. They're doing so much work to bring you guys content. So
Thanks, man.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks,
For
dude.
real.
Thanks for coming back on. We're also joined by Fishbowl today, which is brand new, and that's why I wanted you here for our first episode of Space City
I'm
because it's this is our beta test on whether or
I'm
not
ready.
this actually works.
Yeah.
So we had viewers send in questions, and we're just going to randomly grab them, but not just yet. In a minute.
All right. I'm not afraid to fail. Let's go.
Great, man. That's why we fit so well.
Yeah.
What should we start with? So we're at Space City. This is our first episode from the Space City Tattoo. What do they call this? Space City Tattoo.
Space City Tattoo Expo in Huntsville, Alabama.
Huntsville, Alabama. This is the third one. We made the first one. Were you here last year?
I wasn't here last year.
I wasn't either. We missed last year. They changed the dates around last year, and it kind of mixed us up a little.
That happens with a lot of conventions. It happened in Tampa this year. I was going to do the Tampa show, and it was in October, and I went to Europe and couldn't do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't supposed to be on this show, too. Shout out to Shaquem because he had my back on this, and when I hit him up to
Ask if you
back
could-
somebody up in case somebody dropped a booth, he said, I thought you were doing the show, and I am.
I am doing
I
it.
am.
Now that
So
you mention
shout
it.
out to Shaquem. Thank
Absolutely.
you, brother, for having us.
Thanks for having us, too, Shaquem. He puts on a great show. This is only the third one, but it runs really smoothly. Everybody tattoos, it seems like. Like, nobody. It's a hard show to podcast at, honestly, because
You're busy.
yeah, I tattooed up until right now. That's why this is our first show on Saturday night. Everybody tattoos at this show, it seems
Yeah.
like. This seems like the kind of town that maybe – what do you know about Huntsville? Are there a lot of tattoo shops here?
I don't know. What I do know is when I was younger in school, we used to visit the Space Museum, which is right down the
Which
street.
is awesome. We did
Yeah,
that
it's
last time.
awesome.
We
So-
all got our photos taken as astronauts. Have you done that?
Yeah, I haven't. No, I need to
you
go
should.
live and go do that.
Yeah. I just wonder because so many people flood this place and everyone's here to get tattooed.
Yeah.
So it makes me think that there aren't a lot of opportunities to get tattooed. I might be completely wrong.
Maybe there's just a really strong want to get
Maybe a
tattoos
big
here because
community.
everywhere else it might be popularized, but people are browsing. Or a lot of places don't know you can get tattooed, but it seems like here everybody wants to get tattooed rather than just curious about it. But it's good that new people come to shows because, I mean, there's a lot of people doing the show, a lot of people putting it on, a lot of work going on. So it's always good everybody being busy.
Yeah. Talk about that for a second because you travel basically constantly. You travel like crazy. Talk about the difference in shows that have a lot of like window shoppers as opposed to shows where you end up working a lot. Do you find any like common threads? Can you say like that?
Absolutely.
So what makes a show? What separates a show from another show? Why do you work a lot at one show and then not a lot at another show? That's probably a hard
I guess
question.
it goes back to a question: which show would I do? A lot of times, I like to do a show. It could be big or small. I don't care. I like a show that's in a smaller room with 30 or 40 artists, or something the size of Philly that had 1,000 or 1,500.
So
artists
does that
this
play
year.
into it? Is the bigger show do you tattoo less? The smaller show you tattoo more? Or what?
If you got more people going on, there's a lot more competition, and
Yeah.
if there's window shoppers, there's less people that are trying to get tattooed, and there's just almost too much to pay attention to, honestly.
Yeah.
And here, it's a smaller show, and the turnout fits the venue, absolutely. And then on top of that, everybody's wanting to get tattooed and not just curious about it, which is refreshing. It seems like a lot of the higher roster conventions are more of the window shoppers.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like the smaller shows that have, everybody that's just trying to work hard that maybe haven't developed a name or people have, those shows, people are trying to get tattooed all the time.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. So some of the big shows,
The
say
top
like
tier,
we
yeah.
met. The last time we had you on the show was in Hell City, Phoenix, which had a lot of real like rock star tattooers there.
Everybody I looked up to.
Was there. And so I wonder if you have people that just come, like a lot of the people that come through the door that are paying to get in are really just there to see their favorite artist and
Yeah.
maybe not even to get tattooed.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
I forget that this is a hotel, too, because some conventions are in hotels. So the people from the hotel, like last night, we walked
Just wandered
out,
through.
and people just stared at us and go, hey, is there something going on? We're like a tattoo convention right over here, and they just lit up. So.
Yeah. No, I had never thought about that, but I bet that's true. Smaller shows, for one thing, are probably less competition.
Smaller shows are always going to tattoo at.
People that are coming into smaller shows where there aren't just tons of like big name tattooers are probably coming in to get tattooed. Whereas at some place like a Hell City, say you have Russ Abbott, Teresa Sharp, whoever that people just other tattooers look up to. Maybe local tattooers at those shows are like, man, I'm going to go pay $30 just to go in and watch them work and see. I'm not even getting tattooed.
Yeah.
So I bet that is. I'd never thought about that, but I bet that's a thing.
Hell City was a unique circumstance. I always looked up to that show ever since I was an apprentice. Hell City. Shout out to Derb and Hell City.
Yeah,
and everything.
Derb's
They
awesome.
had
He's
me
been
out
on.
in Phoenix. Awesome.
Yep.
Good luck with everything in April. Wish I could be there. But
You're not coming to Columbus?
I wasn't able to get in time. I had a lot more going on my plate outside of tattooing, unfortunately, and it happens to younger tattooers out there. Some stuff is going to happen that you won't be able to focus on work, but it's all good. But that show was super awesome, but it seemed to be at a resort, and maybe that
The Phoenix
potentially
show.
hurt
Yeah.
the turnout because it seemed like everybody at the resort was going to it and they weren't getting tattooed.
Yeah.
So if you had a client, it was great, but if you didn't, it was slim pickings, I felt like.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense. And definitely at a resort. I mean, and that place wasn't like right. You had to kind of meander to get to that place.
Yeah.
It was way out.
It was cool, though. There were 8 pools, and I jumped into every single one of them.
Yeah.
So
that is cool.
I had a blast.
I did
and
too.
It was
I had
awesome.
so much fun. I did enough tattoos. We got good episodes. We had you on. We had Teresa Sharp on, Ty McEwen. We had
Y'all
so
had
many
a
good
busy
people.
weekend that
We had a
weekend.
busy weekend.
Yeah.
Aaron Delavadova. I forget who all. Dave Koning was on that. That's one of those shows that I feel like when you look at the view count on the episodes, I'm like, how come only 3,000 people have watched the Teresa Sharp episode? That's ridiculous. There should be 100,000 people should have watched that by now. I don't know why that is.
Excuse me. Absolutely, because all of that, every tattooer that doesn't have an opportunity to talk to those people is messing up not watching this.
Yeah.
And if you're not watching this right now, obviously you don't know.
That's
but the
true.
people watching
We're
this
not
right
helping.
now, you have a leg up on everyone that's your competition.
Well, I
because
appreciate that.
This dude has interviews with Nick Baxter, Jeff Ensminger. Y'all have interviewed Russ before, right?
Russ has been on twice.
And then Teresa, everybody else.
Guy.
Anything you want to know is this guy's interviewed him.
We
so.
try. So who we have next month?
Who?
Jeff Gogway. We sure do. We're going. Yeah, we're going to tattoo and podcast at Evergreen, and then we're going to make a day trip to Grants Pass. Podcast with Jeff.
Cool.
Jet back to-
Yeah.
that'll be cool.
When I was in Tahoe, and it was the second one, Gogway was right across from us, and I was like, man, I want to go talk to him. I can't.
Yeah.
I want to go talk to him. I can't.
I've met him a couple of times. He's a real down-to-earth guy.
Real
very,
quiet, real cool, real respectful.
You know, one thing that I know, he's a great like storyteller. Have you ever seen any of his presentations or anything?
No.
He's very natural in front of a camera. He's like good at it. He could be a motivational speaker, I think.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's good at it.
I saw on Instagram he did like a 15-minute plank.
I think I saw it too. Yeah.
Ab exercise. So shout out Gogway and anybody that knows what a plank is.
That's from anybody that knows what a plank is. That's a big shout out. A lot of
people. That was probably my biggest shout out right
probably
there.
ever.
Gogway,
Shout out to Gogway and everyone who knows about planks. That's that Eastern influence. Going to Japan helps you to get in the mindset to hold a 15-minute plank.
I can't wait to go over there, man. Just the mindset of how people are and how they greet you and their demeanor is so different than here.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was shown to me when I got to Hong Kong. When I got to Hong Kong and just noticed everyone, it was absolutely different than it is here.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
100%.
I've never been, but I could imagine. Talk a little bit. So before we get, I do want to get to one of these questions, so we'll keep this fairly brief. But let's go do the quick rundown of when we left Hell City last time. You were about to go on a European/Australian/ wherever.
Yeah, I went
trip.
Texas to Europe to Australia back home. Yeah.
Where did Hong Kong come in? Just a layover?
Hong Kong was my layover.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And if you guys hear the band in the back, they're awesome.
Are they? Yeah.
They're absolutely
That's
awesome.
that's part of podcasting at the convention. Is it real loud? Should we pull our mics in closer?
Is it real loud?
You can't tell. No. Sean's on his phone. See this?
Ha ha ha.
Just screwing around on his phone. He's not listening to anything.
Hong Kong worked out because I had a layover. And for anybody watching, I didn't plan this, but I went Tampa to Europe to Australia to California and back. I didn't plan to go a full circle.
But you did.
But we did, and don't do that because it's very expensive. You're better off going to Australia, coming back, or going to Europe and coming back. Because going here to Europe and then going Europe to Australia is like the same process, and then Australia to America, it's all just high-priced traveling.
Oh, yeah.
So if you've got the budget, great. It's such an experience. It's long flights. You end up in Hong Kong or Singapore or Istanbul or somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, maybe Dubai
Yeah.
and stuff. But I landed in Hong Kong, thought the sun was coming up. It was going down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was going down. And
did you tattoo pretty steadily through the trip, or did you?
yeah,
What was,
yeah, it was decent. I didn't have a ton of business, being that my phone
oh, your phone
crapped out
died
on me.
right when you
and
got
not
there.
that your phone's the most important thing, but when you're in Europe, you kind of need to utilize social media because you're not from there. And if you can't do that, you're kind of hoping that you've got something to do. But, yeah, stayed busy everywhere I went, which was a complete blessing because I didn't tell anybody I was there.
Yeah.
So the worst part of it was I did the biggest trip for me, and then didn't tell
And
anybody because my
nobody
phone
knew.
crapped out
Yeah.
on me. So
Yeah, that sucks.
it's something I got to enjoy, and it was sick. I think doing something like that without Instagram is really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool because
It allows you to focus on it
yeah.
more and less on recording
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But that same time, y'all put out the Hell City
Yeah.
interview, and I wasn't able to share it. Same thing, I couldn't
yeah.
share my tattoos.
Yeah.
And when I
yeah.
got to Australia, I was saying, I'm still working. My phone's just messed up. So
Right.
it was like 2 months later when I got a new phone, I was able to share things and
Yeah.
show people I didn't fall off the earth and stuff.
Were you tattooed in mostly English-speaking countries, or was there a
No,
language
not
barrier?
At all.
Not at
Not
all.
at all. Language barrier every time.
So what was the struggle when tattooing people that don't speak English?
Everything.
yeah.
Everything.
How'd you deal with it?
Normally, you hope you've got a friend somewhere in that circumstance. I had a friend, at least one person, whether they spoke my language or not. I had someone I was somewhat familiar with, and they would normally translate. They would step in between
good.
because they know the deal. They know how to do with this. And maybe my friend there might be a language barrier between us, but he and I could communicate, or she and I could communicate.
Yeah.
They would translate that and then translate it back to me. And with that, you have to have patience, because when you say something and it doesn't come across, you're just going to get mad, and then you look
Ridiculous.
just bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to like calm yourself down and say, how can I say this differently?
Yeah.
Because I was telling you I got stranded
Yeah,
and told my
yeah, you
Uber
told me
I'm
that
right
story.
here, and my Uber said, sorry, my English is bad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just told you where I was, so I don't know how to
I watched
do
you drive
this.
by. Yeah, that is we've spent some time out of the country. I've never really tattooed out of the country, but we've had when I was at Underground Art, we had guest artists pretty regularly, and so we've had several foreign guest artists come through, and I've watched them struggle with, or how they deal with talking to clients. And most of them are accomplished tattooers, so they're doing bigger, they're not doing small walk-in stuff. They're like people coming in to get significant pieces, and they might have a list of things that have to be involved in the piece, and then that artist speaking French, trying to understand what some Southern, not just an English speaker, but a Southerner
You
is
absolutely have to slow down on what you're talking about, be precise, cut out the bullshit.
Yeah.
And then even if that doesn't work, you have to have great patience, because if you come across like you're getting short about the language barrier,
Yeah.
they might not understand that, and they might just take your demeanor, your attitude,
Right.
because once you can't understand words, mannerisms
all
come
off
into
of body
play a
language.
lot. We would go out to eat with my buddy Andre Alonzi, shout out to Alonzi and Hive Tattoo Gallery in Milan.
Yeah.
We would go out to eat, and they would all speak Italian, and I'm sitting there just like, I'm the dude, I'm not talking to anybody. I got to have fun.
Yeah.
But I could tell what they were talking about by if they said yes, no, their manner when they said it, and maybe a couple words.
Yeah.
So when it came to tattooing, I cut it to the basic. What's the basic word? It would be how big, or you kind of point if you don't know the language, which is kind of the wrong foot to get off on, because if you go to a foreign country without learning some of the language, you're very handicapped.
Yeah.
But if you have a translator, it works out. And normally they handle the direct communication, because if it's aftercare and stuff, they normally just take it.
They
take
that.
it, yeah.
Yeah. That's, that.
And also, you don't know what they charge there. And they might charge something differently than you would, and their currencies are different. So it's always good to ask somebody and say, what would you normally charge for something like this at the shop? And that'll vary artist to artist, as it already does. But just to get a general guideline on it's always good.
Yeah.
Always good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And going to Europe as an American, you always end up getting shafted a little bit anyways because of the euro-dollar exchange.
I went to Australia and thought I was making some money because I walked around the convention. I didn't know what they charged. So I walked around the convention, saw all the prices on everything, and everything was very expensive.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man, I'm not selling a shirt for this or doing a tattoo for this.
Yeah.
So then I was thinking, oh, great, I'm making money. And I came back, and I wasn't making money because when I exchanged it, it was less. So just be aware of currency exchanges, things like that.
Yeah. Let's jump in one of these questions. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yo.
Here, will you pull our question out? Awesome. Thank you. All right. What is it?
All right, Brock Hamilton. Most dependable stencil equipment, printers, etc.
Most dependable? Oh, now we asked this. Was this specific to tattooing at conventions?
I got this. Yeah, I can do this.
All right.
So Brock Hamilton, which I want to mistake as a pop group. There's a boy band called
Brock Hamilton.
Brockhampton or something like
Hampton.
that.
It's probably them.
I probably butchered that.
I'm sure they watched the
Anybody
show.
in the comments roast me about that.
Yeah.
Most dependable stencil equipment, printers, etc.
Let's talk about it from since we're at a convention. Let's talk about it from a convention. Well,
absolutely,
a convention standpoint, because at conventions, sometimes there's a line to print or to get stencils made and all that kind of stuff. Have you switched? Do you use, as much as you travel, do you use the little Travel Brother printer?
I want one.
Machine?
I want one. You have to invest in stuff like that, and it's better. If you don't travel a lot, don't buy one.
Yeah.
If you've got the money, great. Awesome. If you travel a lot, it's super convenient to have your own stuff, because if you have your own stuff, you're not asking for help. And better yet, when you ask for help, they might not have it. Yeah. And I've been to a lot of conventions. Obviously, not everybody, but some people use iPads. That's a problem with Bluetooth printers or bad Wi-Fi connection or poor Wi-Fi connection. So printers, I would use a printer that has a Wi-Fi capability and that you could easily Bluetooth print from, no problem. A guy named, shout out Sailor Jesse, he's been helping me out all weekend. He's over there. He brought a printer. He's been printing out all my stuff all weekend. I owe you a beer. I'm going to get you that beer. Yeah. But other than that, normally there's a big line if you buy your own printer. And you can find them at conventions. They're like this big. Yeah. It's about $600 or $500.
Yeah, I think about $500 now.
A good buy, though.
Yeah. I bought one right when they came out, and now there are some newer ones that are like, man, there are some now that are pretty cool that you can like take a photo. I think it's the same printer, the Brother version. Yeah, this guy, the newer version of this guy.
This is so worth it. If you can save up your money, that's so worth it, because you'll never have to stand in a stencil line anymore. Yeah. And if you've ever done Philly, that stencil line's real. Yeah, there are some conventions that the stencil line literally affects your ability to get through a tattoo. Especially if somebody's got an iPad.
Yeah.
If somebody's got an iPad, that line stops.
Yeah,
that line
stops.
Just
stuck there.
Yeah.
But the new version of this, you can like, let me try to see if I'm saying this right. You can literally snap a photo of a sketch, turn it into like a PDF, so it like turns it into a black and white line drawing, and converts it and prints it at the same time.
It captures the edges.
It captures, so you can basically like take a photo of something that's kind of a grayscale photo, it'll turn it into a stencil quality image and print it all in the same swoop. I'm probably wrong, a little bit wrong on that, but it's kind of like that.
I want one. Honestly, if you do shows 3 or 4 times a year, you're going to run into this problem.
Yeah.
And shout out to this band killing it.
They're killing it.
They're so good.
It's real loud.
Unknown Lyric.
That's why we have is that what they're called?
Unknown Lyric. Yeah, it's so good.
Um,
But this is a big deal. The other part of that was stencil equipment.
Or just equipment in general. And I'll say, man, like if you're buying reputable tattoo equipment these days, especially if you're working with rotary machines and stuff like that, everything's pretty. You can buy a $70 rotary and it's pretty dependable. You know?
Everything nowadays is basically up to par.
Yeah.
Everything's up to par or pushing it. Otherwise, you bought something real cheap that was hustled.
Yeah.
But I've been down with stencil stuff since day one, my apprenticeship, and that was like the bigger deal. Not necessarily anymore, but that stuff, I don't have a problem ever with my stencil.
Yeah.
I haven't used Electrum or Nico's product.
I've been using Nico's stencil anchored, and it's good.
Yeah.
I got Rob Smead, who runs Electrum, was part of the Impact project.
Cool.
That we did last year, and he gave everyone like jugs of Electrum, and I'm gonna start using it as soon as I get through my stencil anchored, which I'm already using.
A
lifetime supply. It's so much that he gave us. So if you guys are looking to travel to a convention, go to Impact this year. It's in Indianapolis. They give so much stuff away. They gave little camera or like lenses for your iPhones away. They gave tons of needles, cartridges, backpacks. I mean, so much stuff. It was crazy to everybody.
Yeah. If you stay involved with the industry, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Everything's awesome. A lot of people want to give back, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about equipment. We rarely do that. What's your regular setup? What machines are you using? What power
I'm
supplies?
on a new FK machine called the Zion. If y'all have checked that out, FK Irons makes an awesome machine.
Is it the pin?
It's the pin one, the new one. Yeah, the Zion. I got my hands on it. Didn't use it as quickly as I would have liked. Got into it, and it's beautiful. It being linear, it's straight up and down. It doesn't do the overhang over your hand. That takes some getting used to, as always. I'm getting used to it. I went from a coil to the FK Spectra Edge X, and then went to the Zion, and it's been awesome the entire time. Plus, the Zion makes tuning your machine almost foolproof. Because with a coil, people are going to mess up their machines and not know how to put them back together if you don't know what you're doing. But with the Zion, they basically foolproofed, like, if you mess up the stroke, you unscrewed your machine and it comes apart.
Right.
You know? So, very simple.
That's how most of these have gotten. And a couple of years ago, an episode we just re-promoted recently with Toto Brennan, he was the first one that brought this up to me, and he's been tattooing since the 70s. And was using an FK Irons, and this was probably 3 or 4 years ago. We had him on the show, and he was like, I don't think if you look at a lot of the guys that are pulling off this really painterly stuff, or really beautiful realism, or some of the really smooth blend new school stuff that we're seeing, he's like, that stuff with coils is so much more difficult to pull off, if not impossible, because of just the mechanics of it. It's never the exact same twice. There's always a little bit of difference in spring tension. There's always a little more carbon buildup on the contact point. There's always something slightly different from one tattoo to the next that keeps you from knowing exactly what's going to happen, from it making the exact same mark. Yeah. In these machines, like here's about the Zion, I use the Cheyenne pin. It's always the exact same mark every time.
Fairly consistent. And when somebody pointed that out to me, it made sense. A lot of more experienced tattooers were tuning their machines by the week and keeping them really well. Sorry, I burped. I don't know if you caught that on camera.
That's fine.
But
it's a tattoo show.
With the coils, I mean, nothing was broke. I didn't need to fix it.
Yeah.
I just went to a rotary to see if I could maybe promote a better heel and progress in tattooing.
Do you think it did?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm taking another step back with the Zion because take it for instance. Coils, it was cool, and my game was progressing. Absolutely, I was using Keith B machines. Keith's machines are awesome.
Yeah.
If I'm using coils, I'm using a Keith machine. Blood Money machines are awesome. Some Safiri machines from Kingpin are super awesome, or a Workhorse.
Yep.
But you can buy Workhorse through Kingpin.
Yeah.
But nothing was broke. I just wanted to see if what I could do with a rotary could just take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Not immediately, but about maybe not even 6 months. A couple months later, it was just on.
Yeah.
And, you know, a coil seems so different. So with this Zion, with new machines, younger tattooers, you have to be willing to take a step back to take an even bigger step forward. If you're not open to trying new things, you're gonna possibly plateau with what you know.
Pretty quickly.
Possibly, yeah. It gets boring a little bit sometimes, especially when you get to 20 years.
I think you have to keep trying to find new things to push you forward. I'll tell you the thing that really changed for me, probably more than anything, when I made the change to rotaries, is that I made the change to cartridges at the same time. And moving to cartridges for me, I was a lazy tattooer from a setup standpoint.
Same. I already know where you're going with this.
I only had 2 configurations when I was working with coils. I had my liner, I had my shader. I guess sometimes
so does every tattooer watching this.
Yeah, and that was it. And so if it was a fairly small tattoo, I had like a 7-liner and maybe
just something simple, small tattoo.
And now I treat it more like what I'm painting. I have literally 200 paintbrushes.
Fits.
And now I can set out 8 different needle configurations.
Absolutely.
And I can snap them in and out and go, and it just changed the way that I approach everything about my tattooing.
Yeah. It changed the game for me, and I wouldn't have understood that without a rotary, because being able, I would buy 3 machines at a time.
Yeah.
Because I would normally have, for tattooers watching out there, I would normally do a thick liner, a thin liner, and then a shader of some sort that I could do everything else with.
Yeah.
And I would normally stick with 3 machines, and that's what I do now. But if it's a bigger tattoo, sometimes you're squeezing a mag into a spot, it's better with line work. And shout out to Timmy and Brandon Schulteis for showing me those things, because paying attention to the line work and maybe using your liner to be technical on things just makes a cleaner product than trying to fit a mag in a spot that maybe it's too tight to fit.
Yeah.
So with cartridges, you've got that convenience, because I didn't have another machine to set up, so you just had to make it work with what you got.
Yeah. And that's a key point. It's like having the right tools to do it properly and working with what you got. There's a huge gap there, a huge difference in those 2 things. And it's important to be able to work with whatever is at your disposal, no doubt. But if you can have a 5-liner, an 8-liner, and an 11-round shader, and make use of and learn how all of them are unique. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what was unique, because literally, I mean, when I started tattooing for the first 10, 15 years, we made our needles every morning
I got in right after that period.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Rick. I never had to make needles. Y'all are hating on me watching this, but
so what you would do when you made needles is you would get in the morning. You don't want to make 10 different kinds of needles.
Yeah, I would make
like 3 liners, 7 liners, 7 mags, and maybe a little bit bigger mag, and that was it. And that's what I had to work with, because that's what I had enough energy to make.
How many years?
With what?
Tattooing.
22 this May.
That makes sense. Yeah. Anybody past, I'm almost to the 10-year mark.
Yeah.
And I was right at the line around.
Of when, people stopped
kind of when
doing
it changed,
Yeah.
because when I came in, Kingpin was a big deal.
Yeah.
And Kingpin was crushing it. So was Lucky Supply and a lot of other places. So I was able to buy ready equipment, or I would get Lucky needles a lot.
Yeah.
Lucky or Mithra. Mithra had great stuff. Now there's so many companies.
Oh, yeah.
That the bar is raised and it's already here, you know?
Yeah. I was slow to come on to buying pre-made needles, just because I had been making needles for so long, or we had as a shop, that you knew kind of how you made needles and how they worked. And I did not trust that another company was going to make them the way that I made them.
Yeah.
I'd be like, man, they're going to be soldered all the way down to the tip. They're going to be too tight to hold any ink. They're going to be whatever. I just had it in my head. Like, those people don't know how to make needles. They're making them in China, in bulk. They have no idea what they're doing. And, of course, I was wrong. Lots of people make great needles. But I was really
You get that
slow.
weird one every now and then, but obviously all tattooers throw that shit away.
Yeah. Do you use an eye loop on your needles pretty regularly, or do you not?
I don't use an eye loop.
Yeah.
No,
You just wait to see
I've
if
never
the skin
had it.
shreds.
Yeah, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I've never used the eye loop. I'll eyeball it. If I can see something wrong with the needle or something split apart, because they should be tight.
Yeah.
That's what I've specifically looked for cartridges with, because I was using a certain brand, and it was just off whether they would be consistent or not.
Yeah.
So from there, I just had to find something consistent and found True Tube cartridges.
Yeah.
And their cartridges are just very consistent, and they've worked great for me.
Awesome.
So
I haven't tried
it's working
theirs
so
yet.
far.
I should.
Some
Yeah.
stuff that you get from bulk suppliers and stuff, you might get a needle that looks like this in the package, but you throw that shit away.
Yeah, yeah. We had a company that was sending us stuff just because of Fireside. They offered a promo code and was sending me stuff to try out, and they were obviously I don't want to say their name, but they were. I noticed after a few weeks of using their needles that they were chattery. The cartridges were very chattery, like tick, tick, you could hear them when they ran. They were noisy.
Yeah.
And they kind of had some side-to-side vibration. Sometimes the ink didn't flow perfectly because they were kind of like they had little like burrs and stuff in the tube or in the cartridge part, and I was just like, eh. So for the longest time, I just used T-Tech, and I still use T-Tech, but you do have to look at those. They're super
cheap. I used T-Tech
cheap
for a long time.
Yeah, they're super cheap. And then I do love Cheyennes. They're just twice the price, and you only get 10 in a box.
Cheyenne, I've only heard great things about their products.
They're great.
Great things about their products.
They're
and the
literally
cartridges.
twice the cost. And the thing, I would almost pay twice the cost. The thing that I don't like being in a smaller studio with not a lot of storage is that there's only 10 cartridges in a box. If they would just put 20 in there
I'm
and
sorry,
charge
Cheyenne,
the same price, I would do it.
If you're charging the same price and give me half the product, sorry, I'm not buying. No.
Yeah, exactly. Right now I'm using Helios, and they seem to be fine.
T-Tech, Peak cartridges, Helio, True Tube, Cheyenne, all of them are
Peak
great.
Cartridges.
All
Who
of
are
them
those? What are those?
The Peak are.
Peak.
Anybody watching this, if I mess this up, sorry. It's the Peak. I believe they're red ones. And,
Okay. I think the guy tattooing. No, those are FY. See the ones he's using? FYT?
I haven't checked that out.
Yeah.
See, something new is going to come out all the time. As a tattooer, we can be open to this stuff, but what works, works. You know, find something, stick to it. Don't change your game every day, but be open to trying stuff new for sure.
Yeah, I like to try things out, on occasion. See what's new, see what's out there. From a cartridge standpoint, I don't see a ton of difference. Some of them look a little different, and like I said, there are definitely very cheap ones.
There's some that are that aesthetic, like you were saying, like, oh, this looks cool.
Yeah.
Or something, but
I like when they're color-coded, like Cheyennes are color-coded, so you can tell the difference just laying there between like your 8-liner and your 11 round shader. Like, so if it looks round and one might be a round shader and one might be a liner, and you know how sometimes you're like, oh, which one is that? And you're trying to look, and there's our color.
Look the same.
Theirs are color-coded. There's
a number on the back.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I'll turn it and look on the
see
back.
That. All right.
Yeah. But younger tattooers, you've got to be open to taking a step back, regardless of failure, because if something happens, what you were doing was working, so you could just simply go back to that, but you tried something new. And if you try something new, you're taking a step back to step even further forward.
Yeah.
So
that's true. I agree.
Nothing wrong with that.
Where are you going next? What's your plan?
Next, finishing out the weekend with you guys having a blast.
Drinking a beer.
I'm going to go back to Florida, see my lady. Shout out to Olivia. I miss you.
Yeah.
And then
hey, Olivia.
Going to Detroit for Motor City. Motor City's already booked. Haven't even promoted it yet.
Nice.
It's so awesome.
Sweet.
I love you guys up in Michigan doing that. I guess I'm going to try to get on Savannah. That's under the news, but hopefully by the time that comes out, maybe that's confirmed.
Get on what? Savannah?
Savannah this year, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then after Savannah is Tattoo the Lou. I'm on Tahoe this year.
I wanted to do Tattoo the Lou, and we just have too much going on. It's so close to Memphis. Everybody's going to be there.
Shout out to LT for putting that on, too.
I don't know him. Who is that?
LT Woods. LT Woods is a tattooer, and he put on this convention, and he's doing so much for it. Dude's a tattooer, and he's tattooing full-time and putting on a show as well. So that's a full-time job. Anybody that doesn't know what it takes to put on a show, and I've never put on a show, but this takes a lot of work because the people putting on this show are the first people to pay stuff to reserve the event and the last people to get paid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But with those shows and everything, yeah, man.
So you got, let me run through it, Detroit, and then hopefully Savannah, and then
So
Tattoo
here,
the Lou.
Detroit, hopefully Savannah, Tattoo the Lou, Tahoe. There will be much more sprinkled in there
Yeah.
and stuff. I just can't put it out until it's confirmed.
Yeah.
There will be a lot more Tampa. Tampa's where my house is, so I go back to Tampa a lot. My lady's back there. My family's in Tennessee, so Tennessee's always going to see me. I'm going to come to everybody's area. I'm going to be around.
Yeah.
I'm going to be around.
Keep an eye out. As far as us, we will be, from here, we're going to Evergreen Tattoo Invitational in Eugene, Oregon next month. Making a quick trip down to podcast with Jeff Gogway, which I'm excited about. Head
That's
back
so
to Evergreen.
huge.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
So
I'm
huge.
hoping we can snag Nico Hurtado in Evergreen. I know he works like a maniac. It might be tough.
That
but
guy's so busy.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
We've
I met
tried
him
to get
in
him before.
I met
it's
him
hard.
at Golden State 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Not this previous year, but last year. And somebody had asked him, hey, man, I want what you got, or something like
Yeah.
that. And he said, work every single day of your life and you can have it.
Yeah.
So for every tattooer that wants something out there, don't be
Just
afraid to do
work.
the work, because you won't get it unless you do the work.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
You want to do one
He
more
seems to-
question?
What? You want to do one more?
One more question? Yeah.
You pick it. We have 15 minutes on our card. Oh, 5-0. Oh, okay. That's yeah.
All right, so this is from apprentice Jessica Millman and mentor boyfriend Kevin Ferrand. And sorry if I misspelled that. Number one, how long to develop your unique style? How long into your career before you realized you had a unique style? Has that style changed over the years? So that's a three-part question. I guess really it comes from the second part question, how long into your career before you realized you had a style? You'll notice what you like, I think.
Yeah, I think that in my case, my clients tell me that I have a style. I don't
Clients.
even realize that I have it.
If you're paying attention to your clients, or people around you that say the same thing. If
Right.
somebody says, oh, I like your color, oh, I like your color, oh, I like your color,
Yeah.
pay attention.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I like your black and gray, oh, I like this. Pay attention to what people like.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you keep doing that, you're accenting on your strengths. Furthermore, how long should it develop your unique style? That's forever.
Yes.
You're always going to try to mold something and then unfit that mold and continue on. Nothing's going to stay in your bubble, ever. Even Timmy. Timmy's a perfect example. Timmy B. Anybody that knew Timmy 8 years ago isn't the Timmy now. And dude's been evolving the entire time. Shout out to Tim. He's one of the if
best.
not the biggest influence in my career.
Yeah.
Period.
And in that style of tattooing, I mean, anyone that I see that's working in that style, they're pulling tricks from what he does. And
He
Victor
got a lot
Chill,
of tribute
they're a
from
handful.
Nick Baxter and Jeff Insminger. Shout out to both those
Yeah.
dudes, because
Yeah.
Timmy will attribute to that for
Yeah.
sure. But from watching more experienced artists than myself, that never ends. How to develop your own unique style. What you have now, in 20 years, you're going to want different.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yeah.
So I guess the third part, has the style changed over the years? Absolutely.
It should always
'Cause
be
you're gonna
changing,
change as
right?
people. If you change as people, you have to evolve. If you stay in your bubble, you become stagnant. So you got to change. You got to be open to something new. Other than that, do what makes you happy and make somebody else happy. Do something
Yeah.
bigger than yourself, and you won't go wrong.
I agree. Absolutely. Well said. I think that the thing we always push on this show is you're always working to become a better problem solver. As artists, as tattooers, we're just trying to solve visual problems. And when you've solved it in one way, if you quit there, you just stay right there. If you're always looking for a better solution, a different solution, a unique angle, how to push this a little further, how to back that off, how to do this, if you're always looking to solve that problem and focusing first on that and secondarily on who you're trying to imitate, because I know in tattooing we try to imitate
And
a
more
lot.
importantly, who you're trying to satisfy, which is the client.
And who you're trying to satisfy. And what as far as finding that style of your own, I think it just evolves. There's no way, if you try to push a style, if you say I'm going to be a new school tattooer, you're probably going to be a generic new school tattooer.
And furthermore, I've got so much on this. If you choose what you're going to do, you're pigeonholing yourself to what people want, because it's not always about you. And I learned that about me. I thought it was about me and tried to do me, and that's not what people want. So when people get frustrated over a client wants this or a client wants this way, they want that way. Take yourself out of it and draw your best version of what they want, and you're not going to get mad, and they're going to love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So just further on that.
Absolutely. If you're working to genuinely solve drawing visual problems, and you're trying to work to what they're looking for, solve their problem, you will end up with a unique result. If it's just a matter of like they come in with a Pinterest tattoo and I want this tattoo, and you're trying to mimic that tattoo, you'll spend your whole life trying to mimic tattoos, and you'll never do anything productive.
And I don't know if you'll ever seek satisfaction.
Yeah.
If you do, great. But a lot of people, I don't feel like truly understand what they're going for, because people want a reaction rather than making the client happy.
Yeah.
So if you're making the client happy and you do an awesome piece, that in turn will get a great reaction.
Yeah.
You know, every time I tried to hit a home run, I didn't hit it. And every time I didn't try, I hit it. And furthermore, like you were saying, you have to be open-minded to finding new things, but everything in moderation. If you're trying to change things too much, you'll never act. So I guess being mindful and aware of, is this lame or should I do it differently? And then you got to do a tattoo at one point.
You do have to do a tattoo.
So just be honest with yourself, know where you could be better, accent on your strengths, and then execute. If you're not executing, you got nothing to show somebody.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Perfect. And
Mic
draw from
drop.
life. Look at real things in the real world and draw those things. That's the best piece of advice
shout
in
out
the
to
world.
Ty Harris. He told me that. I
Oh,
was
really?
in Texas. I was looking up Google trying to find the perfect rose for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And he said, why don't you go to Hobby Lobby and take a picture of a flower?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's so funny, but it's like if you look back, in my opinion, art has devolved a little bit over the last couple hundred years.
Dumbed itself down.
But like, and a lot of it is because of what we use as reference. People who were forced to look at the real world and interpret it on a daily basis. It was their job to interpret the real things that were in front of them, that made the most unique, dynamic, beautiful pieces of art that have ever been made. And then once we were able to like Google image search or Pinterest search and collage everything together, everything got kind of plasticky, you know.
Everything gets plasticky and unrelated to tattooing, but it has so much to come back to. You can find so many examples outside of tattooing to relate to what you know.
Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about science fiction, and he says, well, for science fiction, you got to understand the science first. Then you can exaggerate the details at your leisure.
That's a good
But if you don't
analogy.
understand the facts, you can't exaggerate anything. So if you're looking at a reference and understand what it actually looks like, then go ahead and exaggerate it. But if you're drawing something out of your head and just making it up, you might not hit that mark, and you're going to get frustrated when someone calls it out.
Yeah. What a great analogy. That's awesome.
I took from him talking about that and
Yeah,
saw a lot of
absolutely.
tattooing.
That's a perfect example. Absolutely.
Just make sure the
example.
facts are straight. Like, you know, the characteristics, if you're looking at a deer, short hair, you know, characteristics of a deer, all of those things.
Yeah.
Tim Stafford in Austin, shout out to my buddy Tim. I heard him say details describing something, and it blew my mind how attentive he was about what something looked like.
Yeah.
And he executes it so flawlessly. So shout out to Tim. He's awesome.
Oh, I don't know him. I'll look at his work.
Tim
though.
Stafford at Pigment Tattoo works with Jeremy Miller.
Oh, okay.
That whole crew. I love all those guys.
Awesome. Man, we got to leave it at that. That's perfect. I love
gotta
that
leave it at
analogy
that. Mic drop.
with Neil deGrasse Tyson. If you don't understand the science, you can't create the fiction.
Look him up. You're on YouTube. Look him up.
If you can't describe what happens when a light hits a rose, then you can't look at a picture of a rose and make it look right.
Exactly, and you won't know why.
Yeah, you won't
if
know
you're
why.
doing, myself included, I did a lot of things and got lucky that I copied what another tattooer did and I nailed it.
Yeah.
When I started to understand why they did certain things, I understood why to do it and when to do it and when not to do it. So learn from that. Learn from his channel. Watch this stuff.
you.
Ask questions. You'll be good.
Thank you. At Fireside Tattoo, at Plug Ugly Art, at Evan Q.
At Evan Q, but I'm nobody. These guys are the men. They're giving
he's
back
a big,
to the industry. Y'all pay attention to
that's
him.
not true. That's not true. Thank you guys so much for supporting what we do. We're going to do a few more of these
Cheers,
tonight and tomorrow. Thanks, dude. Let's drink another one of these after this.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Woo! Hell yeah. We're professionals, dude.